She could still remember the day she first saw him, leaning against the railing of the community center porch, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the worn wooden boards. He was tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in a crisp navy blazer over a pale blue shirt, his dark hair catching the light. But it was the wheelchair that drew her. Aja's sleek, custom-built frame of brushed aluminum and black leather, its wheels polished to a mirror finish. She had paused mid-step, heart fluttering, uncertain whether to greet him or continue on her way. Then he looked up, smiled, and raised a hand in greeting. That simple gesture set her world spinning. Her name was Emily, and she was 24, newly graduated from college with a degree in graphic design. She'd moved back to her hometown to take a job at a small design studio, eager to begin her career and carve out her own place in the world. She was used to fresh starts and new surroundings, but this felt different, electric, like the moment before a lightning strike. Over the next few weeks, she found herself drawn to the community center more often. She volunteered at literacy programs, helped organize weekend art classes for kids, and even stayed late some evenings to assist with administrative tasks. All the while he was there, quietly present, a shadow at the edge of her attention. His name was David, she learned one brisk morning when they both reached for the same cup of coffee in the center's tiny kitchen. Their hands touched, and she felt a spark of something she couldn't name. They began talking more about books, about art, about their shared love of old movies and road trips. Emily discovered that David had been a software engineer at a tech startup before a car accident had left him paralyzed from the waist down. He spoke of the early days of recovery with a matter-of-fact calm, as if listing grocery items rather than recalling the darkest hours of his life. Emily admired his resilience, his refusal to be defined by what he had lost, as spring gave way to summer. Their friendship blossomed into something deeper. They spent long afternoons exploring nearby trails, Emily walking beside David as he wheeled himself along paved paths, stopping to watch dragonflies skim across the creek's surface. They shared ice cream cones on sweltering days and huddled together under blankets at outdoor movie nights. The flickering images on the screen mirrored in their eyes. Emily felt alive in a way she never had before, as if every color around her, who had grown more vivid, of course, not everyone understood. Her friends teased her about dating a handicapped guy, using tone and laughter that made Emily's stomach twist. They asked her why she would settle for someone in a wheelchair, when there were so many able-bodied men to choose from. She always defended David passionately, but she could sense their discomfort. The guarded glances, the awkward silences. It stung more than she cared to admit. David, for his part, bore it all with grace. He never complained, never lashed out. He insisted that they ignore the naysayers and focus on what mattered. The way their hands felt clasped together, the soft laughter they shared at dinner, the whispered promises they made when the world felt too big and frightening. Let them talk, he told her one evening as they watched the sun dip below the horizon from the porch swing at his parents' farmhouse. They don't know us the way we know each other. Emily wanted to believe him. But one night, when she arrived at his apartment building carrying takeout from their favorite Thai restaurant, she found him talking to her roommate Lila in the lobby. Lila's voice was low and urgent, her eyes wide with concern. Emily slowed down, her heart pounding. When she stepped into the lobby, Lila turned to her, tears in her eyes. "Emily, are you sure about this?" she asked. "I mean, it's wonderful that you care about David, but this isn't just a little thing. His life is so different from yours, you have no idea what you're signing up for." Emily set the food down and folded her arms. "I know exactly what I'm signing up for," she said quietly. "I love him." Lila shook her head. "I just don't want you to get hurt." That night, doubts began to creep into Emily's mind, like unwelcome guests. She lay awake in her own apartment, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was being foolish. Was it noble love or something unwise? Could she really handle all the stares, the whispered judgments, the daily challenges David faced? And what would her family say? Her parents were the next hurdle. When she invited her mother and father to meet David at the art show she was helping to organize at the community center, she braced herself for a rocky introduction. But to her surprise, her mother greeted David with warmth, admiring his wheelchairs, custom design, and asking intelligent questions about his work. Her father clapped David on the back, flinching only slightly at the heat of the brace under his hand, and congratulated him on his resilience. "You know him," her mother said later as they sipped lemonade on the porch. "Your father and I were worried, but you did good." That vote of confidence bolstered Emily's spirits, and for a time it seemed as if nothing could shake her conviction. She and David moved in together in a small loft above a bookstore, filling the space with mismatched furniture, beloved books, and framed prints of vintage movie posters. Their routine fell into place. Morning coffee shared at the tiny breakfast bar, days spent working side by side, Emily at her graphic design desk, David coding from a modified workstation with adaptive keyboards, then evening walks through the neighborhood, stopping at the corner bakery for fresh bread. They were happy, truly happy, and Emily believed that their love could weather any storm. But storms have a way of appearing when least expected. One chilly October morning, David received an email from his former company. They were reopening the position he had left. offering him his old job if he could commute to the office 3 days a week. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, a chance to return to the career he had built, to reprise the role that had given him purpose. But commuting would mean long hours in his car, navigating streets not designed for wheelchairs, relying on transfers and ramps that were often inaccessible. He wrestled with the decision. Confiding in Emily late into the night, she encouraged him to take it, to reclaim what life had taken from him. "You deserve this," she said, holding his hand, "and I'll be right here, every step of the way." So he accepted. At first, everything went smoothly. Emily drove him to the office, watched with pride as he rolled into the lobby, his posture straight, determination on his face. She arrived to pick him up at 6 p.m. sharp, and they would return home, exhausted but exhilarated. Then the cracks began to show. One morning, David's car refused to start, dead battery. Emily missed a critical design deadline because she spent the day helping him get a tow and find a rental car with hand controls. Another day, a sudden snowstorm made the sidewalks impassable. David's wheelchair wheels spun in slush and ice, leaving him stranded outside the building until angry street cleaners arrived to clear a path. Emily sat by his side in the lobby as he cursed the city's negligence, tears of frustration in his eyes. The tension spilled over into their personal life. David grew irritable, snapping at Emily over minor things: a missing sock, a burnt pot of coffee. Emily, already juggling a demanding workload, found herself increasingly stressed, her patience worn thin. They began to argue, sometimes loudly, in the middle of their living room, voices echoing against the loft's high ceilings. Neighbors complained about the noise. Her boss noticed her distractedness, and for the first time, Emily wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. One evening, after a particularly heated fight about his commute and by extension, his wheel packed a bag and told David she needed space. She moved back into her old apartment, the one with the view of the city skyline, and spent a few weeks trying to figure out what she truly wanted. She missed David fiercely, but every memory came with the weight of anger and exhaustion. Meanwhile, David faced his own crisis. He realized that even with the job, the daily struggle for independence was overwhelming him. He began to question whether returning to the corporate world had been worth the pain it caused Emily and himself. Late one night, alone in their empty loft, he found himself looking at the rows of framed movie posters. They had collected images of heroes conquering impossible odds. He felt small and defeated. The next day, before Emily could lock her door behind her departing ride, there was a knock. She opened it to find David standing there, rain-drenched, eyes red-rimmed. He held a small cardboard box wrapped in brown paper. Wordlessly, he stepped inside and she closed the door. They sat on her couch, the box between them. David's voice shook as he spoke. "I made a mistake," he said. "I thought going back would fix things, but I was wrong. I've been so focused on proving something to them, to myself, that I forgot why I fell in love with you." He unwrapped the box, revealing a single key attached to a leather fob engraved with their initials and the date they first met. "It's the key to the loft," he said. "I paid off the rest of the rent, resigned from the job, and I'm not going anywhere. I want us to get back to what matters." To us, tears welled in Emily's eyes as she reached for the key, and then for him. They embraced, the rain pattering against the window, washing away the bitterness of the past weeks. In that moment, everything else faded: the noise of the city, the snide remarks of strangers, the obstacles that had once seemed insurmountable. Over the following months, they rebuilt their life together. Emily found ways to streamline her workflow so she could help with David's transfers when needed, and David learned to ask for support without shame. They enlisted the help of friends to widen the loft's doorways and install ramps at the entrance. They advocated at City Hall for more accessible sidewalks in their neighborhood, turning their personal struggle into a cause that garnered attention and support. People began to see them not as the girl and the handicapped guy, but as a couple whose love transcended physical barriers. Their story was featured in the local newspaper, and soon they were invited to speak at accessibility conferences, sharing their journey and inspiring others. Emily designed a series of posters highlighting the importance of inclusivity, which were displayed in community centers across the state. Years later, when students at the design school where Emily taught asked her how she had managed to achieve so much despite the challenges, she would smile and point to the framed key hanging above her desk. "It started with this," she'd say, "and with the decision to choose love over convenience every single day." And David, in his keynote speeches, would tell the audience that the real miracle was not in overcoming paralysis, but in finding someone who sees you for who you are, not for what you lack. He would end with the words that had guided him through the darkest nights: "When she married me, everyone laughed. But in the end, it was the world that learned what real strength looks like." Their laughter echoing together, they proved that love is the greatest accessibility tool of all tools.